Imagine for a second had Jurassic World had access to IMAX screens, which they had 0 IMAX screens. All IMAX screens were still reserved through this weekend for F1. So if Jurassic World had had those several hundred IMAX screens, probably could have slapped another $10 million onto this haul domestically. I'd think pretty easy. Pretty easy, another 10 million here. We might have been talking about 160 million.
Renegade Online.
You know, like it or not, this movie did overperform projections. It overperformed projections by, I think, everybody, by about, it looks like $50 to $60 million on a global basis at this point, which is not insignificant. I mean, you think about it this way. If you come up with a projection that says, we think a movie is going to do $26 million globally at its open, and instead it does 32, well, that's a nice little overperformance, but it's not going to set the world on fire for most films, right? You add a 0 behind that. You move one order of magnitude over, right? And we're talking about some serious dollars here. And that's basically what happened with Jurassic World Rebirth, or if some have come to call it Jurassic World Afterbirth. I saw the movie Wednesday. I mean, it wasn't the worst thing in the world, but it wasn't particularly good. I mean, I think it was the worst of the Jurassic Park movies for me. Yes, it had some fun stuff in it, but it also had a lot of stuff that I didn't understand. I didn't understand the whole subplot of the family that was sailing across the Atlantic Ocean on a little 35-foot sailboat, going from, as they said, I believe, Barbados to Cape Town. Look at that on a global map and look at what you're talking about. It'd be, you'd have to have rocks in your head to make that crossing in a boat that size, to me. And what was even more bizarre is I don't know what purpose they served in the entire film. I mean, when the movie starts off and the entire multi-billion-dollar research facility is basically blown up by a Snickers bar, I don't know where to go from there. And a lot of people kind of caught on to the same thing and were like, I feel like I've seen this before in something else. I think there was a Marvel show where this happened, where we were all joking about it. And it was something like a drink spilled or something. I don't remember what movie this was. And like the whole facility went up in flames. So anyway, we can talk about the review side of the film later. But to get to the box office here on this one, we've got Jurassic World Rebirth about to get loud with $260 million global opening. That was on Tuesday, I believe. Maybe Monday here, July 1st, whatever day that was. That escalated very quickly. So let's kind of dive in to see what happened here with Jurassic World and talk about where this movie might go. And then later in the show, like I said, we've got some of the stuff from James Gunn. We got Superman coming up. We need to kind of talk a little bit about Disney and the entertainment industry because we have earnings coming up. There are some reports suggesting that traffic seems lighter than normal, although some folks telling me today the park was packed. So we'll talk about all of that because Disney is Lilo and Stitch aside, ain't having a real good year when it comes to film and television so far. But here's the reality of it. Deadline magazine this morning, and there's 2 articles, of course. There's one here from Nancy Tartaglione with the global figures. Dynamite, Jurassic World Rebirth bows to $318.3 million in global in biggest studio opening year to date worldwide. F1 nears $300 million. Now, looking at this, 318.3. They thought it was going to be 260, then they lifted it to a little over 300, and then it was 312, and now it's 318. You know the story here. If you've watched me long enough, you know how this tends to chime out. In this instance, okay, when you have a movie like this at this scale that is overperforming projections coming into the weekend by this healthy of a margin, we're probably still going to wind up being a little short. That's why I think this thing is going to be a little bit closer to maybe 325 million when it's all said and done by tomorrow or Tuesday morning when we have all the actuals in from the weekend. Now, remember, this is a 5-day opening. 5 days. This isn't 3-day. This is 5-day, right? So it is a bit different. The last 3 Jurassic World films, I think, all opened over a Father's Day frame. They opened in mid-June, which I think is what they were all timed to. I think they were timed to Father's Day frame openings, 3-day openings. So it does parse out a little bit differently, but let's go through this. Universal Amblin's Jurassic World Rebirth is coming with a monster 318.3 global launch, making it the biggest worldwide opening of the year for a studio film so far. It's also got bragging rights to becoming the second best start for the franchise, behind 2015's Jurassic World. Let me expand this a little bit. Now, of course, before we go any further, obviously, we're not taking into account inflation here. The opening for Jurassic World in 2015 was markedly higher in this, to be fair, a little over $500 million. That movie legged out to 1.6, 1.7 billion. This movie's not going to get anywhere close to that. At least nothing would remotely seem to indicate that to be the case now. But Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, Jurassic World Dominion, again, 3-day openings for those movies to the best of my recollection. So, again, bear that in mind. We'll get to some more of the details there. In 82 offshore markets, the Gareth Edwards-directed Scarlett Johansson star is estimated to gross $171 million through today. And a lot of those markets, again, opened up since Wednesday as well. International markets do tend to open on a Wednesday. We tend to open on a Friday. This one, of course, opened on a Friday as well. Or this one opened on a Wednesday here in the U.S. as well. Makes it the second biggest international box office opener of 2025 behind China's Ne Zha 2. Now, Ne Zha 2 is a Chinese-made film that was, I think, exclusively in the Chinese market. So I don't know how fair that is to compare it as an international film insofar as we're concerned here. This is also the number 2 best bow for the Jurassic franchise, I guess, overall. Now, again, if we're also including Jurassic Park 1, 2, 3 from the 90s, clearly we're talking about a different universe here. You inflation adjust those, and it's a different planet altogether. China leads all play internationally for Jurassic World Rebirth at 41.5 million for the 5-day frame. The biggest studio movie opening of 25 over there, even when counting just the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Jurassic World Rebirth has already outgrossed How to Train Your Dragon, a Minecraft movie, and Lilo and Stitch in China, and is currently number 2, the number 2 title there for 25, only behind Mission Impossible Final Reckoning. Again, I don't find that terribly surprising, to be fair, because this is one of those few things, coming in, you absolutely know coming in that China is going to be the dominant force on there. Now, I got to be careful. I'm going to say this before I forget again. I'm not kidding. I had an ad running for Netflix in the corner that popped up on a page here Wednesday or maybe Sunday last week, and I got copyright hit for it. A pop-up ad. I got copyright hit because it was a 30-second trailer for something that was on Netflix or something that just popped up. Didn't even know it was there because I'm reading an article talking to you, and YouTube absolutely screwed me for it. All right, let's get back to this one. Jurassic World Rebirth. A dinosaur gets bigger with $36 million Saturday 5-day opening now roaring to 147 plus. This will probably be 150 million in gross box office by the time the real numbers settle in, considering how much this is overperforming. Jurassic World Rebirth is, again, this was coming into this weekend with an estimated 130 million, and it overperformed that by about 10%. Now, of course, I will say, as I mentioned earlier this week, imagine for a second had Jurassic World had access to IMAX screens, which they had 0 IMAX screens. All IMAX screens were still reserved through this weekend or F1. So if Jurassic World had those several hundred IMAX screens, probably could have slapped another $10 million onto this haul domestically. I'd think pretty easy. Pretty easy, another 10 million here. We might have been talking about 160 million. We'll see what happens once those IMAX screens get released. Will Jurassic World get to eat a few of those for some time, or are they going to all wind up going to Superman? I don't know what the scheduling is right now for IMAX. Obviously, I think Superman is definitely going to be in IMAX, no question. I don't know if Jurassic World's going to get a piece of the pie, though. It's going to be interesting to see. Name a franchise that has swapped out its characters, its cast, and yet continues to be a box office success. It's not necessarily James Bond, nor is it Jason Bourne. Jurassic World Rebirth is that unicorn, upholding the meaty grosses of this Universal Amblin dinosaur franchise. Has a long history with. The Gareth Edwards directed, Scarlett Johansson starring feature here, let me blow this up again, posted its biggest day since opening Wednesday with a $36.7 million Saturday, a massive 40% surge over Friday. Now, that's not a huge surprise considering Friday, again, was Independence Day, 4th of July, right? That's not usually one of those days that is a massive overperformer when it comes to going to the movies. That's usually an outdoor day for families, not an indoor day. You get Thanksgiving, holiday breaks, people go see movies. Christmas Day, Christmas breaks is a big let's go to the movies day. Independence Day, the opposite. It's not as bad as Christmas Eve, don't misunderstand, where nobody goes to the theater by comparison. But it is not a huge it's not a big boon for theaters. Now, this is why Saturday saw this extra bump, in my opinion. Now, the revised 3-day weekend, so a true Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the FSS that they keep talking about, a revised three-day of 91.5 million and a 5-day of 147.3. The latter number translates into 10 million admissions over 5 days per box office stat and intelligence. Okay, what does that tell you? If that's 10 million admissions, okay, simple math here, kids. Do it for me in the audience. You know where I'm going with this, right? If you've got 10 million admissions that rendered $147.3 million, how much was the average ticket price? $14.73. $14.73. And they didn't have IMAX. Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.